Hey, hello, leaders. Hey, this is Paul Grau, and welcome back to Run to Your Leadership Challenges. So today I titled this I think I titled this episode "We Need to Start Thinking," and that's because I was reading this book the other day, and it was talking about thinking, and it has me really thinking that we don't think enough, and especially deep thinking. So let me ask you, what would real thinking look like in your life? Or better yet, how would deep thinking influence your daily habits? Because that's what it comes down to, right? Our habits are directly from our thoughts and what we want and what we think we know. So, what would it look like? How would it influence your daily habits? I mean, would you think that you would make wiser choices and decisions, or worse choices? Now, I think the answer is obvious to all of us, and I think it would really lead to a more successful life and career overall. Now, the book that I was reading was called "The Greatest Salesman in the World" from by Mandino, and I've had this book for a while in my Kindle and I haven't read it. And this past weekend, I just sat down and I read through it, and it was a great book. It walks you through where it's kind of a parable and a story where this one guy takes on a mentee and he reads him all of these different scrolls that were passed down onto him. And if he reads all these scrolls and he does all these things, it's supposed to make you the greatest salesman in the world. Now, the quote that really got me thinking about it is, "The only difference between those who have failed and those who have succeeded lies in the difference of their habits. Good habits are the key to all success." Now, he also goes on to say that we are slaves to our habits. Man, that really hits deep, right? Because think about that. We're slaves to our habits. And I thought a lot about that, and I'm like, man, that's pretty deep, but it's true, because we become what our habits allow us to become. And if we have bad habits, well, that's just going to lead to more bad stuff. If we have really good habits, it's going to lead to good stuff. Now, with all that said, I want you to think of some of the habits that may actually be holding you back. What are some not so good habits that might be holding you hostage, or that you may be a slave to? Yesterday we talked about drifting, and not thinking about our habits can become the same way, because we do what we think. What we think becomes habits because that's what's really on our mind. So I think a lot goes into this whole deep thinking and not just being on autopilot. And I think, I sat down and I thought of some things about how can I ensure that I'm really thinking instead of just going through the motions, instead of just being a slave to bad habits or even good habits for that matter. What's the best way to ensure that I start thinking instead of just doing? And I came up with three things, and I want to share them with you. The first thing that I think we need to do is pause before speaking or responding. Now, I'm just talking at just a few seconds, because if you hear something or if somebody asks you something before you speak, if you just stop a couple seconds and think about what you're going to say, or think about how you're going to respond to that answer or that question, I think that this will allow you to process the situation and think about exactly what you're going to say. And I think what you say is going to be better quality words and better quality answers. The second thing is, start monitoring what you're saying and how you're responding. Ask yourself if you are putting any thought into your words or if they're just automatic. If you find that they're automatic, man, that's your key to slow down. If you're just responding to questions, you can always ask the person, what they're thinking about it. If somebody asks you a question and you want to think about it a little bit, you can always buy time by just asking them, well, what do you think? It's a good question. What do you think? And then you could think about what you're going to respond, but as you're listening to them. So listen to them and then take a couple seconds and say, reflect on what they said and, just think about it. And, there's nothing wrong at all. It's perfectly okay to tell somebody that, you know what? I want a little bit of time to think about that because that's a really good question. And I want to answer it very well. I want to answer it to the best of my ability, to the best of my thinking ability. And so just slow down. A lot of times that little pause kind of goes against the grain. It kind of makes you think like, when you ask somebody a question, usually they respond quickly. But if you pause and kind of look at them and just say, that's a good question, and then answer, I'll almost guarantee your answer is going to be better. And finally, the third thing that I think that we could do is develop new habits around thinking. Really make it a habit to plan out some thinking time. Some of the greatest thinkers and some of the wealthiest, most successful people in the world schedule like several days at a time and up to a week at a time to just go away just to think. Bill Gates does this. I think he goes to some cabin in the woods all by himself for, 3-4 days, maybe a week, and just thinks. And man, if we could do that, even if it's a weekend, can you imagine just getting off by yourself and just thinking the whole weekend, being with God and just thinking, letting God talk to you, listening to God. So develop habits around your thinking and start by tracking and keeping count of all the decisions that you make, because this is going to allow you and help you to get a better feel of exactly how you're thinking. So number 2 was start monitoring what you're saying. But number 3, the difference is really start keeping track and really not only think about how you're responding, but really asking yourself, hey, am I thinking about this? Hopefully those 3 things will help you. I think they will. It's something that I'm going to start doing. And I started the kind of hesitation thing or pausing a little bit before I answer a long time ago, but I kind of got out of that habit, to tell you the truth. And I formed a bad habit of not pausing and thinking. So this really was an eye-opener for me, and I really enjoyed reading the book. Again, the book is called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. So if you haven't read it, I would definitely highly recommend it, because if you think about it, we're all salesmen. We all are selling something. That's it for today, and until tomorrow, run to your challenges. We'll see you.